Today on Super Mystery Bros. In the most desolate and inhospitable regions of Mongolia, rumors swirl of a giant, bloodthirsty killing machine that lurks deep beneath the surface of the Gobi Desert, shooting up out of its subterranean lair to spit deadly acid and electricity at its unsuspecting victims. Western scientists generally scoff at the idea of this being a real creature, but to the nomads who live in the area, the beast is no laughing matter, and the mere rumor of a sighting can cause an entire community to flee in panic. Is the Mongolian Death Worm a mere fairy tale, a real creature, or something else altogether? Welcome back to episode 12 of Super Mystery Bros, the podcast that's been called the Danny Glover of podcasts because we're getting too old for this shit. And joining me once again live in the studio is a man who does this entire podcast while squatting, Ivan. I always offer you a chair, but you always reject it, man. And today also in the studio is Peter, and Peter is a guy who lives with Ivan. Peter is Ivan's roommate, and he's going to talk about his own expedition into the Gobi Desert in search of this elusive creature toward the end of our episode. So, Peter, do you want to say hi to the people?
Yeah, hi.
Well said. Ivan, what can people do to lend us a hand in our descent into the moist and subterranean world of the unknown?
As always, our dear fans, you can leave a comment, a 5-star rating, and a review on Apple Podcasts or whatever app you use for your podcasts. And and you can just let everyone know how great our podcast is.
Yeah, I mean, like tell your friends, your family, the cashier at your local Walmart, put flyers up all over your neighborhood. Just tell everybody you know. That would really help us out. So real quick, I also want to remind our listeners that we still have 2 more spots available for anyone who writes us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. So you can, if you do that, you can email us at supermysterybrospodcast@gmail.com, and you can let us know that it was from you, and you can also choose a mystery for us to cover in the near future. So we only got two spots left for that. All right, man, why don't you kick this one off by talking a little bit about where this all takes place?
Mongolia. It is known as the land of blue sky, as it has roughly 260 days per year of clear blue sky. It is the most sparsely populated country in the world. Although Greenland is technically more sparse than Mongolia, that doesn't count because it belongs to Denmark. It lies sandwiched between Russia to the north and China to the south. Genghis Khan, known to be one of the greatest and most tyrannical conquerors in human history, is widely considered to be the founder of this country. He and his horde of Mongolian horsemen, having conquered an area larger and more populous in the span of 25 years than the Romans did in 400. Today, it stands as the 18th largest country by area, and somewhere between 25 to 40% of its entire population still lives as nomadic herdsmen on the Great Mongolian Steppes. The Mongolian people are well known for their culture of hospitality and will greet their guests with arak, which is a type of drink made from fermented horse milk. To refuse this drink, then it's offered, is considered to be a great insult to the Mongolian people. The country is famous for its rolling grassland steppes, where livestock and horses can be seen grazing across flat pieces of earth that seem to stretch out into eternity. But today, we will focus on the area in the southern portion of this great country, the Gobi Desert. stretching across nearly the entire southern portion of the country, separating it from China. It is characterized as a cold desert, where even on its sand dunes, snow and ice can accumulate. Aside from sand dunes, it has dry mountain slopes, gravelly steppes,
Gravelly steppe.
gravelly steppes, rocky hills, dry riverbeds, and more.
The word Gobi is derived from Mongolian word Gobi, which is defined as the zone between a steppe and desert. So, in other words, its name is a good descriptor of it, as it's somewhat a hybrid between a steppe and desert. On top of its truly special and unique geography, it holds the distinction of being the world's largest site of dinosaur fossils in the world. Its conditions nearly perfect for the preservation of such. However, deep inside of the Gobi Desert, in the most remote regions of this desolate landscape, may lie a secret so shocking and horrifying that the mere act of stumbling upon it would mean wishing that you have never ever been born.
By the early part of the 20th century, Western scientists and explorers had begun to fling themselves all across the globe in search of the last handful of new and exciting discoveries, as the world at that time was rapidly becoming smaller and more familiar to all, and few corners of the globe remained untouched by Western man. From the tombs of ancient Egypt to the deepest, darkest jungles of the Congo, to both poles of the world and beyond, and then on to the Gobi Desert, where giant dinosaur bones were being unearthed. It was a hell of a time to be alive, as earth-shattering discoveries tore at the very fabric of humanity's understanding like Hulk Hogan's hands on the chest area of a cheap t-shirt. In a time where even the mountain gorilla had only just recently been discovered by Western explorers, humanity was collectively holding its breath while it waited to see what other kinds of wild and wacky specimens that science nerds with khaki clothes and butterfly nets would drag out of the jungle next. But for one American paleontologist, a trip to the majestic land of Mongolia in the early 1920s would prove fateful, as tales of one of the most horrifying creatures to have ever been alleged to exist were uncovered, and the ground beneath our feet would never be viewed in the same way again.
The first recorded mention of creature in Western scientific literature known as the Mongolian Death Worm was from Roy Chapman Andrews, an American paleontologist who, while on a scientific expedition to Mongolia in the early 1920s, was told of a deadly worm-like creature which lives in the most remote regions of Gobi Desert, which he wrote about in his book entitled On the Trail of Ancient Man.
In the book, he describes a meeting between him and Mongolian officials at the Foreign Office, where he was to discuss and negotiate the final details surrounding the expedition permits that were to be issued to him by the Mongolian government. The Mongolian premier, along with the Minister of Foreign Affairs and other officials, presented him with the contract which outlined what he was to do and not to do while on his quest. The following excerpt is from his book, On the Trail of Ancient Man.
Then the premier asked that, if it were possible, I should capture for the Mongolian government a specimen of the olgoi-khorkhoi. I doubt whether any of my scientific readers can identify this animal. I could, because I'd heard of it often. None of those present had ever seen the creature, but they all firmly believed in its existence and described it minutely. It's shaped like a sausage, about 2 feet long, has no head nor legs, and is so poisonous that merely to touch it means instant death. It lives in the most desolate parts of the Gobi Desert, whither we were going. To the Mongols, it seems to be what the dragon is to the Chinese. The premier said that, although he had never seen it himself, he knew a man who had and had lived to tell the tale. Then a cabinet minister stated that the cousin of his late wife's sister had also seen it. I promised to produce the olgoi-khorkhoi if we chanced to cross its path, and explained how it could be seized by means of long steel collecting forceps. Moreover, I could wear dark glasses so that the disastrous effects of even looking at so poisonous a creature would be neutralized. The meeting adjourned with the best of feeling, for we had a common interest in capturing the olgoi-khorkhoi. I was especially happy because now the doors of Outer Mongolia were open to the expedition. End of excerpt.
Although previously unheard of to any Westerner, the Death Worm is a legend that has been passed down through Mongolian society for eons. Andrews searched the Gobi Desert high and low for the creature, but unlikely or luckily, depending on how you view it, he was never able to find one.
The name olgoi-khorkhoi roughly translates to intestine worm in the Mongolian language, not because it lives inside your intestines like some sort of tapeworm, but due to it allegedly resembling a cow's intestine in appearance. Descriptions of its size can vary, from 2 feet by accounts of Roy Chapman Andrews, all the way up to 6 feet or even more.
Those who have been lucky or unlucky enough to have seen it describe it as having no head or legs and being blood red in color. That doesn't sound so bad, you might be thinking to yourself. Well, let me finish. What makes this legendary beast so dangerous are its behavior and its abilities. It lurks deep beneath the surface of the Gobi Desert, lying in wait until its favorite prey, typically humans and camels, wander into position.
According to Mongolian nomads, before its prey can even know what's happening, half of its body emerges from the surface, shooting electricity at its target, paralyzing it. It then inflates the tip of its body with poisonous fluid, which blows up into a bubble until it explodes, sending a stream of deadly, corrosive acid towards its prey, killing its victim in slow, painful agony. You might be screaming, "No, no, no!" But all it hears is, "Who wants cake?" And believe me, they all do. They all want cake.
After devouring the victim, it's said to lay its eggs in the remains before then traveling back underground. Although it resembles a giant uncircumcised penis, who the fuck writes this shit, man? It's not one you would ever want to have shoot its goo on you, even if that were something that you were into. Not kink shaming here, but the consequences of it busting on you would be far greater than a simple trip to the shower, as its corrosive yellow poison is so toxic that it is said it will kill a man within mere minutes as he lays screaming in agony, having been bukkakied by yellow, corrosive, acidic goo.
According to legend, the Mongolian Death Worm can be tracked by following the waves of sand it creates when it comes up to the surface of the Gobi Desert. It is said to hibernate underground for 10 months of the year, only emerging in the months of June and July during the rainy season to hunt and feed.
The mere mentioning of this creature is said to be enough to spark fear into the heart of the average Mongolian citizen. And as far as the nomadic people of the southern Gobi Desert are concerned, the Death Worm is out there. It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear, and it absolutely will not stop ever until you are dead.
The monsters from the 1990 movie Tremors, known as graboids, are said to be partially based on the Mongolian Death Worm. According to scientists, the death worm, if it exists, likely isn't a worm at all, as worms require a lot of moisture to survive, which the Gobi Desert has very little of. In an episode of Destination Truth, which aired on the Sci-Fi Channel in 2008, Josh Gates and his quote-unquote team traveled to Mongolia in search of the death worm. While talking to a museum curator in Ulaanbaatar, is that how you pronounce that city? Ulaanbaatar, the capital city. The curator told him that there was no chance that this creature exists. However, upon traveling from the capital down to the Gobi Desert, all the nomads in the area that he talked to knew of the creature when asked about it, and everyone seemed to know somebody who had seen it. In the episode, a local even spoke about a nomadic community that recently fled in terror after rumors of the death worm being spotted in the area had come to light. Needless to say, the Destination Truth team, air quotes, never found shit, but they pretended to do some real scientific searches by scanning the horizon with thermal cameras and then digging out some random fucking hole in the desert and testing the soil samples for acid, and of course, turned up nothing. So as a side note, real quick, when I was doing research for this episode, I remember 10 years ago or so, I saw this other kind of Destination Truth kind of show where there was some local that pointed out something in the desert to the team members, and then it had this like suspenseful commercial, like pre-commercial break sequence happening, and then when it came back from commercial break, they went up to it and it was just a fucking old bicycle tire just laying in the desert. Yeah.
A Czech cryptozoologist named Ivan Makerle became obsessed with the Mongolian Death Worm, and in the summer of 1990, during June and July of that year, traveled to the Gobi Desert for the first time in search of it. This was the first recorded expedition of its kind, specifically in search of the creature. The following is an excerpt from the book The Beasts That Hide from Men, Seeking the World's Lost Undiscovered Animals by Carl Schucker, which we highly recommend you read if you would like to learn more about the lore of the death worm, and it's been a wealth of information on this topic for us.
The team had originally planned to entice some death worms out of the sand and into view with baited traps containing this species' favorite food, but none of the nomads could tell them what that was. Consequently, they had no option but to attempt an alternative approach, luring the worms with very intensive ground-borne vibrations. The initial plan was to generate these vibrations with a specially created thumper, featuring a heavy weight and spring, and driven by a battery-run motor. Eventually, however, they abandoned this in favor of an ordinary wooden log, which was forced down into the ground on several occasions to create a succession of vibrations emanating outward beneath the sand. This approach was inspired by Frank Herbert's classic science fiction novel Dune, featuring a species of giant vibration-sensitive sandworm, the Shai-Hulud. I never read that book or watched the movie. How do you pronounce that? Anyway, Shai-Hulud? I don't know. Someone's going to be pissed. Inhabiting the desert planet Arrakis. Unfortunately, neither the timing of their expedition during June and July, nor their efforts to encourage their quarry's appearance upon the surface of the sand via vibrational stimuli achieved success. They did not encounter the death worm. Even so, they did succeed in collecting a very considerable amount of anecdotal evidence and testimony from local people, which had not previously been made available to European scholars. Expedition number 2 occurred in June and July of 1992 and comprised Ivan, Jarda, and George, plus Shemed as their Mongolian driver, and also a local guide called Nerguj. This time the team explored other portions of the area west from Dalanzagad, which seemed from locals' accounts to offer a greater chance of success for encountering a death worm. They also interviewed llamas and shamans living close to the border with China, and set off several controlled detonations of explosives in the hopes that the resulting shockwaves traveling through the sands would induce any worms in their vicinity to emerge onto the surface. Sadly, however, the worms were not for turning upwards, that is. Undeterred, the team filmed their search, which was broadcast as a 30-minute TV documentary entitled Zahada Pizza. I can't pronounce that. It translates to The Sand Monster Mystery by Prague's Česká televize in 1993. A third Czech foray, olgoi-khorkhoi expedition 1996, spanned 14 days in June 1996. This did not include Ivan, but featured two of his acquaintances, Miroslav Neplava and Peter Horky, plus two other Czech team members. Unlike Ivan's explorations, This one was not concerned solely with the death worm, so only a portion of the fortnight was allocated to seeking it. No first-hand sightings were made by the team, but they did obtain an interview with a local death worm eyewitness.
Behavior and lifestyle of the death worm. During Ivan's field and bibliographical investigations, several significant and sometimes truly astonishing aspects concerning the death worm's behavior and lifestyle were uncovered. These can be itemized as follows. First, there is a high frequency of death worm sightings in areas sustaining Cinnamomorium songarsium, I guess. This is a cigar-shaped poisonous parasitic plant, locally termed goyo, I guess, found on the Saxal plant's roots, which are also poisonous. One old woman called Burette claimed that when the worm attacks, it raises half of its body up through the sand, inflates itself, and secretes a bubble of poison from one end, ultimately squirting it forth in a stream of its unfortunate victim. 3. Burette also claimed that anything contacted by this deadly fluid turns yellow instantly and looks as if it has been corroded by acid. However, it loses its potency from the end of June onwards, and meeting the worm then does not always result in death. Ivan and his team repeatedly heard claims from the nomads that the death worm can kill people by touch, too, and sometimes even then several feet away. While camping near a monastery, the team was informed by their on-site guide, Kamalgalagu, hailing from Hanbogt, about a local boy who had accidentally touched a death worm that had found its way into a box in his parents' campsite and had concealed itself within it. The boy died instantaneously, as did his parents when they attempted to kill it. 5. During Ivan's first expedition, his team's interpreter, Sugi, recalled an incident from his childhood when a party of geologists were visiting his home region. One of the geologists had been idly poking the sand with an iron rod, then suddenly, without any warning, he dropped down onto the ground. His horrified colleagues raced over to him at once, but he was dead. As they peered at the sand he had been prodding, however, it began to churn violently, and out of it emerged a huge fat worm, an olgoi-khorkhoi. Yet the man had not touched this deadly creature directly, only via the metal rod. 6. The team also spoke with Yang Jin-gin Makhglazav, I guess, a nature ranger from Talaganzagad, who affirmed, as did Burette, that during the 1960s a single death worm had killed an entire herd of camels just south of Noyon, when they were unsuspectingly plodded across an expanse of sand, concealing one of these dreaded beasts laying beneath the surface. Not surprisingly, the Gobi nomads greatly fear this apparently lethal creature and take great care not to draw close to it if they happen to encounter one unawares.
The hypotheses generated by Ivan and his colleagues from the above data are exceedingly thought-provoking. For example, they consider it possible that the reason for the death worm's close association with the goyo plants is that it obtains its venom from them, or from the roots of their host, the Saxal. Even more extraordinary, if true, is the prospect that the death worm can kill by electrocution. Although a highly radical proposal, which I shall discuss fully in part 2 of this chapter, it could certainly explain the instantaneous deaths attributed to this worm of people who have touched it or camels that have unsuspectingly trodden upon it. Moreover, assuming Sugi's anecdote is true, electrocution undeniably offers an effective mechanism by which someone could die instantly, even after having touched the worm not directly but with an iron rod, an excellent electrical conductor. From 1946 to 1949, the USSR's Academy of Sciences launched a series of expeditions into the Gobi, led by Dr. Yuri Orlov. In 1946, Ivan Antonovich Efremov, a Russian paleontologist, took part in one of these, which he later documented in his book Doroga Vetrov, which translates to The Wind's Path, in 1958. During the expedition, Danzang, a young geologist who could speak the local Mongolian dialect, was instructed to inquire about the death worm with an elderly man, Sevung, from Dalanzadgad. Danzig himself had never heard of the death worm, so he expected to be harshly rebuffed or derided by Sevung for wasting his time. Instead, to Danzig's great surprise, Sevung informed him that he was indeed aware of this creature, and that although he had not spied it personally, he had been informed about it on many different occasions from the other Gobi nomads. According to Sevung, the death worm could kill with a single stroke and inhabited a barren expanse of wasteland known as Kaldzandzag, roughly 80 miles southeast of Dalanzadgad. Here it remained hidden beneath the sand dunes for most of the year, but surfaced during the summer months of June and July. When Danzig translated Sevung's words, the Russian geologist began to joke about the death worm's alleged killing abilities, which greatly angered the elderly Mongol. Scowling with rage, he fired off a terse volley of words before abruptly departing, words which, when interpreted by Danzig, left the team in no doubt as to the very real fear endangered among the local people by this formidable beast. You laugh only because you know nothing and understand nothing. The olgoi-khorkhoi. It is a terrible thing.
Efremov speculated that the Mongol nomads' death worm traditions and lore may derive from some living fossil, perpetuating its line from prehistory into historic times, but which, if not already recently extinct, it's now very rare, persisting only in the most remote areas of Central Asia. Incidentally, preceding Doroga Vetrov was the publication in the 1954 of stories translated into English by O. Gorchakov, and also appearing in French as Récits, I guess, a collection of science fiction tales. Indeed, Efremov is actually more famous as the science fiction writer than as a paleontologist. In the introduction to this collection, Efremov wrote, "To try to lift the curtain of mystery over these roads, to speak of scientific achievements yet to come as realities, and in this way to lead the reader to the most advanced outpost of science. Such are the tasks of science fictions as I see them. One of those, quote, scientific achievements yet to come as realities is of particular interest to cryptozoology, because among his stories in this collection is one titled, quote, olgoi-khorkhoi, end quote. And sure enough, its theme is none other than the fatal discovery by a geological party of Gobi's infamous death worm, clearly inspired by local testimony that he had gathered during his own Gobi expedition. Efremov's tale contained a detailed account of the olgoi-khorkhoi, corresponding with the reports documented elsewhere by Ivan Makerle and others, including its lethal power of apparent electrocution.
In the story, two worms killed some of the party members even without physically touching them, again echoing true-life nomad lore. However, an intriguing additional detail contained in Efremov science fiction story is that immediately before the worms killed their victims, they writhed in a spiral and changed color, becoming purple with bright blue tips. Could this be a facet of deathworm behavior collected by Efremov during his Gobi expedition of 1946, but not noted in Droga Vetrov. In 1966, Y. Tevel's notable Dictionary of the Mongol Language, Mongol Kelni Tovch, I can't pronounce that, included an entry for the olgoi-khorkhoi. This described it as a Gobi inhabiting worm that resembles a huge intestine and is extremely venomous. Speaking of dictionaries, Ivan Makurle has revealed to me a fascinating snippet of information indicating that the death worm is known not only in Mongolia but also in Kazakhstan. Reading through a Mongolian Kazakh dictionary, he discovered that the Kazakhs have their own term for the olgoi-khorkhoi, namely Yudzenzlan. End quote. Altazin Tsadak Govt, 1987, by Mongolian author Don Dogizin Tsevigmid. Sorry, I can't pronounce that. Documents the wide deserts and beautiful mountains lying to the south and southwest of the Altai Mountains, a vast region colloquially termed the Behind Altai Gobi. It also provides several Altai-based cryptozoological snippets, including items mentioning Mongolia's famous man-beast, the almaz, as well as a lesser-known version, the Chun Goroz. For our purposes, however, the most noteworthy section is one that deals with the death worm, and also with what may be a related yet equally unidentifiable mystery beast, not to mention a self-inflating hedgehog. It reads as follows. At that time, a local herdsman from Noyan, Sumin, which was a village in Omnelgov Amak country, talked about the khorkhoi, which translates to yellow worm, Zamba Zara, hedgehog, and olgoi-khorkhoi, the intestine worm. Quote, I was riding my camel along the Toast Mountains. Suddenly I spotted a long yellow animal in front of me. It looked like neither fox nor wolf. My camel started to cry out in fear, and its cry attracted others of the same creature, which began to come out of their holes in the ground and approach me. So I took flight with fear. When I turned my head while riding away, I saw about 50 of the creatures following me. Luckily for me, I met some nomads riding against me. They told me that they were khorkhoi, living underground. Lately, they are rare. Quote, in the west part of the Segs Kagan Bogged Mountains lives a strange animal, the Zamba Zora. I met one once while hunting. It sat on a big stone with its head erect, which inflated. It smacked its tail on the stone with such force that the noise it made was as loud as the sound of a camel's gallop. Because I'd heard that the Zamba Zora can reach the size of a yurta, which is a big tent, by inflating, it decided to take flight. End quote.
So, that's where we'll conclude the excerpt from the book. The Beasts That Hide from Men, Seeking the World's Lost Undiscovered Animals. Again, if you want to do any further reading on this subject, we highly recommend this book. Mm-hmm. Richard Freeman, an English cryptozoologist, traveled with a four-man team to Mongolia in search of the death worm. In 2005 article from news mongabay.com, prior to his expedition, he had following to say, quote, I don't think it's a worm at all. True worms need moisture. I think it's a limbless, burrowing reptile, probably a giant member of the group of reptiles known as amphibious or worm lizards. These are a primitive group of poorly studied animals. They are not snakes or lizards, but are related to both. I think the death worm is a giant member of this group. End quote. Freeman believes that the death worm's powers may be overstated. Quote, it's like the salamander in medieval Europe. It was thought to be deadly poisonous. Alexander the Great was supposed to have lost hundreds of men after they drank from the stream that had a salamander living in it. But now we know it's harmless. Even today in the Sudan, people think that the harmless sand boa is so venomous that you only have to touch it and you will die. End quote. Needless to say, they too turned up empty-handed.
So, Peter, why don't you tell us a little bit about your time in Mongolia? That brings us to the end of our story. So, Peter, I want to know about your time that you spent in Mongolia. So, why were you in Mongolia in the first place, and what were you doing there?
And when did you?
Okay, so actually it was like 4 years ago. Yeah, it was 4 years ago in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just in the middle of July, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I never heard about this worm before.
Uh-huh.
Now that I listening about all of this, I think it was an interesting time.
You dodged a bullet there if you went there in July.
Yeah.
What?
That's the bullet.
That's the bullet.
It means that you almost got killed. But
Yeah. Actually, I was traveling from China to my home.
Uh-huh.
And if you go from China to Mongolia, you need to cross the Gobi Desert first.
Right, yeah.
Gobi Desert in July.
Oh, was it hot?
It was really hard, yeah.
Yeah.
But actually, my first, I think it's a scary place, you know?
What's so scary about it? Aside from the death worm, what's scary about it?
There is nothing here, nothing there.
Yeah.
It's like just I don't know how can anybody, like any animal or people, live there. It's just like I don't know what does this sheep they eat. How do they find some food to eat? And it's just like stones and stones and stones and nothing more.
It's just like flat.
No, it's not flat actually.
Not flat.
In some places it's kind of flat, but there are a lot of small, a lot of hills.
Mm-hmm.
I was happy when I left this place.
So, what were you doing in Mongolia? Like, not just the Gobi Desert, but Mongolia in general. Like, why were you there?
I was just traveling. Go back home.
Oh, but didn't you say before that you were studying the Mongolian language?
Oh yeah, it was why I go from Mongolia, because I just wanted to see that place. In my bachelor degree studies,
Uh-huh.
I studied Mongolian and Tibetan literature,
Oh,
languages, and like that. Yeah. So what I want to say?
How was the hiking in?
Hitchhiking.
oh, you hitchhiked through it.
Yeah.
Dude, you're fucking madman, dude.
How long did you have to wait for the cars?
Actually, it's not. It wasn't a problem because it's near to Ulaanbaatar.
Near to the.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
but that's up north, isn't it? It's not near the Gobi Desert, right?
I needed just to cross maybe 300 kilometers this, just to reach Ulaanbaatar. It was 200 on the Gobi Desert and 100 just in some grasslands.
Oh,
So how long you had to wait?
I didn't wait a lot. Maybe it was a little city, or how to name it, just on the border of China.
Mm-hmm.
And I take a car, let's say, the car give me a lift,
uh-huh.
and we just go directly to Ulaanbaatar. We just stopped in one monastery by the way, made some photos, and just continued. Oh, maybe it was 2 cars, but not a big problem actually.
Mm-hmm.
So people in Mongolia, are they happy to pick up a foreigner who's trying to hitchhike?
I think.
Or do you think a lot of cars pass you first?
No,
before
there is
someone-
not a lot of cars.
So they're like, oh shit! If I don't pick this guy up, he's gonna die out here.
I
so
think,
I better pick him up.
I think the way of their thinking must be like this. Yeah. But in some places, actually, on the north, when I was closer to Russia, it was a problem. First of all, there is a road in the Gobi,
Right.
just from China to the capital of outer Mongolia. There is a road. It's not a good road, but there is a road. But in some parts, they're just they have grassland, and the places the cars went before,
Mhm.
and you can see
It's like a dirt road.
yeah.
Dirt road.
and they have like we say about Russia, but we just joking. But in Mongolia, it's really like this. Say we don't have roads, we only have directions. Yeah. And one time I was hitchhiking, and people they like I already spent there almost 2 weeks, and I can speak some language.
You can speak some Mongolian, right?
Not now.
Not anymore, but you used to.
Yeah, like
Okay.
actually, when I studied it, I also cannot speak it good. But when I go to Mongolia, I like speak with people, and I started to how to say, like, people understand me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there I already can speak some Mongolian, and I said, okay, guys, I have a map like in my telephone. I said, okay, guys, I think we go the wrong direction. I said, oh, what does he speak? This foreigner. Hey guys, are you sure that we go in the right direction? Oh, I don't know. He probably speak that we go the wrong way, but I don't think he can speak Mongolian. Like Again, in the end, I say, okay, guys, we need to go there, not there. And they, oh, you sure? Okay. And they just turn the car and we go just on like nowhere, just by the direction. It was like
So that there was no road.
yeah.
So it's just so flat that area is really
It's
flat.
not
right?
really flat, actually.
Oh, it's not. Okay, well, when I
They
think
don't
of
care.
well, when I think of Mongolia, I think of like these wide, expansive flatlands. Where would those be?
A lot of
located?
hills there, actually. A lot of hills.
A lot of hills. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it was in northern Mongolia.
Yeah, it was already in northern Mongolia.
Oh, okay. That
But
makes
even
sense.
in the Gobi Desert, it also a lot of like stone hills or sand hills like this.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you also stayed on a farm, right?
Yeah, actually, I go from China with my Chinese friend, like Japanese friend.
Oh,
We
yeah.
studied together in China.
Uh-huh.
And then we just stopped on the border because they have a what was the
Checkpoint?
name?
Checkpoint
And yeah, they have a like, is it checkpoint on the
Yeah.
boards? Yeah, they
on the
have,
border.
they have checkpoint, but the problem is they have a holiday.
Hmm.
Like I forgot what's the name of the holiday. Like in the middle of summer, they have a holiday. They
In Mongolia?
yeah,
Okay.
like it's a big holiday for the whole country. So they just how to say, close the borders.
Oh shit!
They just don't work on the borders at this time. So we like in a few days we can take a train to cross the border.
Hmm.
And my friend just waited for this train, and I suddenly know that he is there, and we like spend some time together and just take the train together. But after that, he go directly to Ulaanbaatar, and I just wanted to continue hitchhike, so I just drop out from the train. How to say? Get out from the
Yeah,
train.
you just jumped out of a moving train.
No, get out of the train and continue to search for the car.
Uh-huh.
And he go directly to Ulaanbaatar, and he said me in which place he gonna stop, but he doesn't have a telephone in Mongolia. Like, I mean, telephone number. or
Yeah,
anything.
right.
So I only can find him in some place if he said before, or maybe he can find the internet and send me a message. I don't know. Anyway, when I come to the Ulaanbaatar, I didn't find him in this place, and I never find him again.
Oh shit!
I even
Never?
go to no, actually, I even go to police and police station and say, "Oh, my friend from Japan, he's lost. Like I can't find him. He can't how to say, connect with me. I can't connect with him." But it doesn't help. And after that, when I come back to China, I just know that he already came back to his home.
So he got home.
Yeah, I go to the student's office and ask about him, and they say that they know that he already get back home.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. But you never saw him again personally, or?
No. And I cannot connect with him in WeChat when we
Oh, okay. All right.
which we used to connect before.
Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about when you went to Mongolia?
Maybe I just want to say this it's a beautiful place.
Yeah, there's something really alluring about Mongolia to me. When I see pictures of it, I love it just looks like it's this big open area that with very few people.
Yeah, that's true. Like, it's really not so much people there. Almost nobody there, and you can just see sometimes sheep or maybe some other animals. But the biggest impression actually is the sky. It's it's very close. It's just so close.
I guess that's why they call it. What do they call it? The land of the blue sky or something?
Oh yeah,
probably.
Yeah. Well, Ivan, what do you think that the Mongolian death worm is, man? Do you think it's a real thing? Do you think it's just a legend, or just spill your guts on this?
So, almost hit me with the mic, man. So I'm gonna start, right?
Yeah.
So I had one thought about I want to start with the story from the book we read, actually, right? In the podcast with the guy riding a camel, and he allegedly encountered what was the name of the worm again?
The Mongolian death worm
in Mongolian. Olgoi-khorkhoi, yeah.
Okay.
And he allegedly encountered olgoi-khorkhoi, and his camel got super scared, right?
Yeah.
So we don't know if he has encountered the olgoi-khorkhoi or not, but the camel got scared, and right, we don't have to be like super serious about it, right?
Just whatever, man.
Yeah, whatever. So it reminded me of the King of the Hill episode, man. We watched maybe.
So for our listeners who don't know, Ivan and his roommate Peter are just huge King of the Hill fans lately.
Yep.
So they're about 20 years. They're about 20 years too late, but it's better late than never. It's a great show. But anyway, go on.
I wonder if you remember the episode where the Hank's dog got really angry at the mechanic or
the black guy, right?
Yeah. I wanted to be more politically correct, man.
It was Bernie Mac did the voice of that guy. I remember. Yeah.
And the dog got really angry and stuff, and then in the end, the psychologist, the animal freaking veterinarian or something, he said, "Oh no, it's not the dog. The animals they always they have this connection with the owner, and they just." Represent your unconscious or something like that.
Oh yeah.
So I figured if the guy on the camel, he just got scared, then he saw some unknown thing, and then
the camel got scared.
And then the people, they usually afraid of the things they don't know. Not just people like it, but many organisms are like that. So anyway, and I guess maybe camel just felt it, in the similar way. It's probably not scientific, but it's kind of interesting. I think. So I think maybe, and then he got even more scared because the camel were scared, and the situation just
it was like a negative feedback loop, feedback loop.
Yeah. The freaking positive feedback loop of fear, and then they just were scared together of the death worm. But yeah, I'm gonna. What do you think, man? Because I need more time to think about it, and I want to hear what you think first.
Okay. Well, I mean, right off the bat, I don't think that it's a real creature as the legend lays it out. Like at face value, I don't think that there's some death worm that's laying underneath the ground that spits acid and electricity at people. And the reason for that is that the Gobi Desert, from what I understand, there's just not enough moisture for a worm of that size to live there. But I think that the explanation here is like twofold, or maybe even like threefold. So for one, I think that the Gobi Desert, since it's so conducive to like fossil preservation, I think that the locals at some point in history, they might have found some like super crazy looking fossil. And then they assumed that if this one is here, then there must be some living ones still out there somewhere. And then, like ages and ages ago, especially in this remote area, there's just little to no education about things like this. like especially fossilization and extinct animals and all that. So I think that it's highly likely that a lot of the lore and the legends like sprouted up from some type of fossil of some long, crazy worm looking thing. Or they might have just like interpreted something as such. And then like when it was found, that's kind of where the legend was born from. Because I don't think that it's a coincidence that this legend is from the Gobi Desert, the place where the highest concentration of dinosaur bones and fossils are found. So I think that I think there's a direct link between those two. On top of that, it also seems to me that every culture in the world has like its own form of boogeyman. Do you have like boogeyman in Russia? Like some boogeyman that your parents tell you is out there?
Baba Yaga or
so that's kind of like I like a witch or something maybe.
I remember from the
something you venture away from the safety of your parents and the boogeyman is going to get you. And I think that this story is kind of like the Mongolian boogeyman. Don't wander too far away or the death worm is going to get you. You know, it's something that people tell their kids in order to scare the shit out of them into not leaving their parents' side. So I think that that's probably the explanation here. And then I think the third fold piece to this equation here would be simple misidentification of animals like snakes, certain reptiles, that sort of thing. So I don't think that it's a real animal necessarily, but I think that it was inspired by some fossils that were found in the Gobi Desert by these nomadic people. Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's good hypothesis, I think. I already have 3 beers in me, man.
Do you want 4?
4? Yeah, of course. So
we can pause it.
Yeah. I might not be able to, give a good explanation of this death worm,
Well, try.
I'll try.
This is the fun episode, man.
It's a fun.
Let your hair down, Yeah.
I just did it. Yeah. And I think your hypothesis about it is really interesting, about it being a boogeyman or some sort of I would say like the way for the nomads. As we mentioned in the beginning of the episode, 40% of the population are nomads, right?
Yeah, 25 to 40% of the entire population of Mongolia are nomads.
So probably those are the people who might. It's just my suggestion, but they just might think a little bit more in the mythological way.
Yeah, I would agree. They probably have their
probably.
Peter, do you know what their religion would be? Even the nomads? Oh, well, Peter says that they're Buddhists.
But there are spirits in
Shamanism.
Oh,
okay, yeah.
I'm on nomads. Or
I don't. Peter's kind of far away from the microphone, but he's saying that they have some shamanism too in Mongolia.
Shamanism, Buddhism. So my guess is probably to both of those branches. Like even in Buddhism, I think there are some spirits and stuff like that. Shamanism, definitely some spirits. So we could be talking about some sort of mythical thinking, and the way that the people with this way the people who use this way to conceptualize the world, sometimes they try to give the unknown and the thing that worries them some form. Yeah. But Nate's hypothesis is that maybe they just saw
you need to be closer to the mic.
Maybe they just saw some bones or some fossil.
How to say? But nobody ever seen these fossils. There is no fossils actually.
Right. But what I'm saying is that maybe at some point, maybe hundreds of years ago, 1,000 years ago, or whenever, somebody did find something that resembled a death worm, and then that's where the myth kind of came from.
I think is also maybe 100 years ago or 50 years ago, there is actually some kind of worm or snake or something like this.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So the legend is still here, but the creature isn't.
Or
Maybe
another hypothesis would be like, I think I heard in one of the Jordan Peterson's lectures, and he was talking about the dragon, that it represented the most, if I'm not mistaken, the most dangerous things for the ancient men kind of thing.
Yeah.
The thing that flies, that can eat your stuff, eat you and stuff like that, spits fire and all those things. Those are like really dangerous things. And then for the my thinking just went this way, that nomadic people would be really scared of worms for the reasons that if the freaking worms would eat their supplies, that would be like, some scary shit. They will have nothing to eat then.
No, I actually agree, but I think that you are onto something there where the dragon represents like a human's greatest fear, right? Because it can fly, it can shoot, it can shoot fire. But I think that it's basically the same thing for the Mongolians, except in their mythology, it's under them, not above them. Like in maybe the Chinese version would fly. Do the Chinese ones fly? I know the medieval European ones could fly,
Dragons?
shoot fire. Yeah.
Chinese too. They fly too, right? Chinese dragons.
for some Chinese dragons, they live in water actually.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay, so but my point is that for the Mongolians, it's under them, which is even scarier because at least a flying dragon, you can see it coming, but you cannot see shit below you because it's underground. So when you step into the wrong area, it's going to come up out of the ground and you're not even going to see it coming, and it's going to shoot you with the fucking electricity or the acid or whatever and kill you instantly. So I think to me, the Mongolian Death Worm is an even scarier version of a dragon.
And I guess for them to have a dragon, because the dragon, they don't, maybe they just don't have as many like trees and things high to fly from or something. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
And then maybe they went the other way, like you said. So the danger might come from below, because if you can, in the Gobi Desert, but Peter said it's not a plain, but still I guess you can see from afar. I guess it's not the same as in the forest,
I would imagine
right?
that there's no tree. There's very little.
So you can see if the freaking, I don't know, eagle. Oh yeah, you can see from afar. It just showed the.
Oh yeah,
picture.
yeah. That looks like you can see into the edge of the.
So I guess imagining a bird flying from anywhere and you don't see it, it's kind of impossible, right? Because you can just see it. But like you said, if it's something that comes from below and it's just attacks you, would be a better representation of some unknown thing,
Mhm.
like to be scared of some thing that you cannot actually predict or see beforehand.
Yeah,
That would be a good representation of it.
yeah.
So I guess probably it might be the legend might have formed in the similar way, like a dragon's kind of thing.
Yeah, so it kind of goes back to Roy Chapman Andrews. Do you remember in that excerpt from his book, he said that the Mongolian death worm seems to be what the dragon is to Chinese, but for the Mongolians.
Oh, okay.
So it's almost like we arrived at the same conclusion.
Yeah,
almost.
Yeah.
I would actually, that makes a lot more sense now that we've talked through this. It makes a lot more sense. I think it is kind of like the dragon for the Mongolians. Would you agree?
Yeah, it seems like it, man. It's a representation of some unknown force.
Don't Mongolians have dragons?
Do that? You're the expert, man. You live.
I think they have. They really have.
They have dragons?
Yeah.
Are they different from the dragons? Or?
I think they're closer to Chinese dragons, actually.
Oh, so maybe it was...
Actually, there is like Mongolian, they have like close connection with China, Chinese culture.
So they probably have both.
Okay. Makes sense, man. Well, is there anything else you want to add to this discussion?
No, I think it's good. It's good. It was good.
All right, man. Do you have any apologies, shout outs, or clarifications to make? Peter doesn't have any. What about you, Ivan?
I apologize to any of the believers in olgoi-khorkhoi.
Why? Well, I'd like to apologize to any of the Mongolian people that I might have offended by just absolutely butchering the shit out of their language. So I'm sorry for mispronouncing every single word of your language. All right, man, I think it's about time to get out of here. Like sands through the hourglass, so too are the minutes of our podcast. But don't fret, dear listener. We'll be back again to breathe new life into an old mystery next time.
Помните, ребята, истина прячется в тени. Вместе мы найдем ее.
This is Super Mystery Bros.
Olgoi-khorkhoi. Olgoi-khorkhoi. Мы все с тобой. You're big bad boy. Olgoi, olgoi-khorkhoi, olgoi-khorkhoi, olgoi-khorkhoi. Попой со мной. Olgoi-khorkhoi. Olgoi-khorkhoi.